and let the media talk about Biden's problems for a change, something they never did before. What are you expecting from Trump today, and do you appreciate his strategy over the last couple of weeks?
Well, good evening, and thank you so much for having me on. The day after the debate, remember, he did go to Virginia and had a massive rally because under Joe Biden, Virginia is now a swing state, which is amazing because that's currently where I'm joining you live from. So there's a lot of energy on the ground in the Commonwealth of Virginia. But for Doral, and the strategy since that last appearance has been very disciplined. You have a campaign that is by the book, doing everything they need to do to secure this victory, not taking anything for granted, staying focused, staying disciplined, staying on message, and addressing the issues that the American people actually care about. When you look at the Democrats, they're not addressing serious issues. They're talking about threats to democracy. They're concocting these crazy narratives. They're more focused on getting Donald Trump convicted on these felonious crimes and these felonious allegations. So Donald Trump is doing everything he needs to do to secure a second term. And I look very much forward to watching him in Doral.
I have to agree, Harrison. I remarked on this earlier, not today, but on a prior show, about how the Trump campaign, seems to be firing on all cylinders. They seem to be really locked in and very focused and effective so far in delivering Trump's message and in staging these incredibly energetic rallies. I want to just switch gears for a second and ask you about the Biden situation. How long do you think before the mounting pressure from Democrats forces Joe Biden to step aside? Do you think, first of all, that'll happen? And do you think Kamala is a shoo-in to replace him?
Well, I truly think that the president's heels are dug in. President Trump mentioned this yesterday in his interview with Sean Hannity. This is all about ego. This is a man who has held political office since the age of 29, and he's 82 right now. It's going to take an act of God, and by no means am I suggesting that should happen, for Donald Trump or for President Biden to step aside. His family, especially Hunter and his wife, First Lady Jill Biden, these are the two people that are pushing for him to stay. And, for all the bad I can say about Joe Biden, the one thing, he is a family man, although the family is profiting off of his last name and his politicking. But he's going to listen to his closest advisors, and those are his blood relatives and his wife. So I don't see him going anywhere. And to answer your last question, it has to be Kamala Harris, if no one else. Yeah. Because you are looking at a situation where the first African-American, Asian-American, the whatever qualifiers, the first woman vice president you want to say, for her to be hopscotched over for a white candidate is going to send shockwaves throughout the political process, especially in the Black community and the minority community that may plan on voting for Biden. I don't see how they can get away with not having Kamala. But I truly think, as of today, anything can change, but Joe Biden is going to remain the candidate.
Wow. You make a great point about how they can't skip over Kamala, and maybe they don't want Kamala to take the reins. Maybe they'd rather find a better candidate. Maybe they're willing to wait 4 years to do that, Harrison. But it seems deeply, deeply irresponsible on the part of Biden's closest family members and also his inner circle to encourage him to keep being president when he is so clearly not capable of handling the job in the way that it needs to be handled. The hours, the attention, the ability to answer questions. The guy can't hold a press conference. And I don't know how many hundreds of times Donald Trump stopped for the cameras and spoke off the cuff about anything and everything, which is what we expect from a president. And this guy, our current president, doesn't appear able or willing to do that. In fact, they've gone out of their way, his handlers, to prevent it from happening, because they know every time he does, he puts his foot in his mouth, Harrison.
You make some really, really strong points right there. And I'm just going to take each one step by step, if you allow me to. The one word you mentioned, irresponsible, I couldn't have said it better. But it's not just irresponsible in this moment. It was irresponsible to put him up to run in 2020. They all knew that he was not the Joe Biden of the Senate. He was not the Joe Biden that served alongside Barack Obama. This is a man that has lost his curveball years ago. and he's barely making it to the plate today. So it's very irresponsible to put him in that position before, and to have him in now, it is akin to elder abuse. It's really sad. And I was seeing the clip yesterday from him in Philadelphia, and it broke my heart, because at the end of the day, we're human. Most of us are faith-filled people. No one wants to see their grandfather, let alone the president of the United States, in this state. It's really sad, and it puts us in a very vulnerable state. And to the accessibility issue that you brought up as well. Listen, I served in the Trump White House as assistant press secretary under Kayleigh McEnany in the Trump White House. I know what it's like to have an accessible president of the United States to the press. He kept us on our toes every single minute of every single day. You never knew when President Trump wanted to call the press in, and he called them in 2, 3, 4 times a day. We're lucky to see the president 3 or 4 times a month. So he kept us on his toes. He was extremely accessible to a press that was extremely hostile to every single person in the Trump White House. And he did so because the American people need to hear from the president.
That's awesome. That was a great story, Harrison. I appreciate you being here. And I love the curveball analogy. I'm not sure Biden ever had one, but he's definitely, if he did, he's lost it. We are waiting, obviously, on Donald Trump to take the stage here. Harrison, thank you very much. Coming up, Biden's campaign has continued to struggle since the debate. And now Capitol Hill Democrats are worried. We have more on that and the Trump rally live when we come back.
Take us over the road. Man made the train. Carry the heavy load.
You served your country. Now get the benefits you've earned. Paul R. Lawrence, the former Undersecretary of Benefits for the VA, reveals the secrets of getting what you deserve. Be approved for disability. Use valuable education credits. Buy a new home. Find a job. Even discover little-known benefits. It's all in the new Veterans Benefits for You at bookstores everywhere. Or see the free offer. Act today.
Attention, cancer victims who were in New York on or after 9/11. If you or a loved one were in Lower Manhattan during the 9/11 tragedy or during the 11 months afterward and were later diagnosed with any of these or other cancers, you may be entitled to a substantial settlement. A $10 billion compensation fund is in place for these cancer victims. Do not wait to file your claim. Call now and speak with us. The call is confidential and free, or reach us online at worldtradecenterfund.com.
Attention Medicare beneficiaries. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you may qualify for enrollment in a Medicare Advantage plan, so make sure you know your Medicare ABCs. You may be familiar with Medicare Parts A and B, but if you are thinking about Part C, also called a Medicare Advantage plan, speak with a licensed insurance agent to see what plans and benefits are available in your area. Our partners offer plans from Humana, Aetna, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, Cigna Healthcare, WellCare, so you can compare your options, coverage, and pricing across multiple carriers. If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, make the free call to the number on your screen, give them your zip code, and a licensed insurance agent will walk you through the entire process. It's that easy.
I just became eligible for Medicare, so I called to find a plan that fits my budget.
For a free, no-obligation consultation,
call 800-480-8716.
Some breaking news. Famed political strategist Dick Morris says Donald Trump is running for president. Few people know President Trump better than Dick Morris. For years, Morris has served as his top advisor. Now, in his new bestseller, The Return, Dick reveals Trump's secret plan for 2024, his real reason for running, and his coming surprise announcement. Dick says Trump still faces 3 threats, but Biden can never be reelected. Newsmax calls The Return the only political book you need to read. It's already an Amazon #1 bestseller. If you want to see Trump's plan, Dick Morris shares it. Big media, big tech, and the deep state all want to stop Trump. But The Return shows they'll fail, and Trump will triumph. Get Dick Morris's The Return in bookstores everywhere, or see the free offer from Newsmax. Go online or call today.
Welcome back to the Leventhal Report. We're standing by for the beginning of Donald Trump's campaign rally at his Doral Golf Club in Miami, where he will no doubt have some choice words for President Biden. Even as the chorus grows on Capitol Hill and amongst voters, whether Biden's cabinet should consider the drastic step of invoking the 25th Amendment to remove him from office. Correspondent Christina Thompson has more on this.
President Joe Biden's cognitive abilities are now the talk of the land as the media finally catches up to what many have already seen with their own eyes.
Do you think that Joe Biden should get a cognitive exam?
Yeah.
Yes.
100% yes.
Yes.
Probably.
Yes, absolutely.
I think everyone should have one.
What makes you say that?
Because it just seems like he's not there.
I don't feel like he's just like mentally there.
After having grandparents that suffered from things like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, you kind of know the signs. Not capable.
The 81-year-old insists he's 100% in the presidential race. But folks we talk to agree with some of the media elites, calling on him to step down.
Do you think that he should step down?
Yes. I think he should step down in his own will.
Do you think that we should invoke the 25th Amendment? He should step down?
No,
Yes.
I don't know about that.
I don't feel safe.
He's old enough.
Reporting in New York, I'm Christina Thompson for Newsmax.
For more on what's happening on the Biden side of the race to the White House, let's bring in GOP strategist Mark Vargas. Welcome, Mark. As we wait for the Trump rally to begin down there in Doral, yesterday's White House press briefing got heated over his staff apparently trying to hide a Parkinson's disease specialist's repeated visit to the White House 8 times in 8 months, which raises obvious questions about the president's mental fitness. We don't know if he was there to examine Biden every time. They say it wasn't the case, but we don't know. And Biden has insisted he's still in the race. So as a strategist, do you see this as a major miscalculation to keep Biden in the race by Democrats, or is he simply their best shot at this point?
Well, they've just been involved in a cover-up. I mean, this is Watergate-style cover-up, presidential-style politics. We can't forget, Rick, that in '88, Biden suffered 2 life-threatening brain aneurysms, and as a result, we're seeing this cognitive disability as he's grown older. But it's outrageous. Nearly 75% of Americans all agree that Joe Biden is too old and he's unfit for the presidency, and it's splitting the Democratic Party. You heard the mood today after the House Democratic Caucus met. It was sad and sobering. Those were the comments from Democratic members of Congress leaving today's meeting earlier in Washington. The White House is going to be inundated with questions for the remainder of this campaign about Joe Biden's health, what they knew, what they didn't know, what they've covered up. We haven't seen this sort of cover up since Woodrow Wilson in 1918, when the First Lady and the White House physician hid the fact that the president was incapacitated. But the vulnerable Democrats across the country are going to begin to see their poll numbers decrease as a result of attaching themselves to Joe Biden. I predict that in the next month, you're going to see a lot of Democrats across the country begin to distance themselves from a wildly unpopular, incompetent, and aging president.
I have to say, Mark, 1918 was a little before my time, but I do remember Watergate, and I appreciate the reference to this cover-up on the part, in this case, of the press, not just the administration, but I believe the press, for not accurately reporting on President Biden's condition. Now, the Wall Street Journal has been reporting on Biden's inner circle, working to keep his cognitive decline under wraps. Biden, of course, keeps insisting that debate night was just one bad night. But if that were true, what do you think he can do, if it's even possible, to reassure Americans that he actually could function as president for 4 more years?
Well, I have to say 99% of Americans know what it's like to function with a cold, but apparently it incapacitates President Biden. And apparently 6 days of rest while hidden at Camp David wasn't enough. He was far too exhausted, proving to our adversaries around the globe that our president is weak. He needs to take naps. He's exhausted from working 4 hours per day. But this was a wild cover-up. The press knew this. His own internal staff, these leaks that are slowly coming out of the White House and from former aides and staffers are beginning to say, we knew this all along. It's incredibly dangerous. It is a cover-up of epic proportions. And the Democratic Party is going to have a come to Jesus moment, because this is going to impact down ballot races in a serious way. And when it begins to impact fundraising, and it will, when it begins to impact fundraising, it's going to be time for the Democratic Party to switch him out.
You made another great point, Mark, that we expect our president to project strength. And Eric Trump said it in the warm-up to this rally. Joe Biden does not project strength. We all saw it that night at the debate when he came out on stage. You could see right away the guy has a hard time walking and he has a hard time talking. He has a hard time being understood. And Trump called him out on that as well. Again, and I don't want to hit this too hard, but it is, in my opinion, irresponsible to run this guy for an office again when we can see from 5 years ago to today just how far his cognitive decline has accelerated.
It's political malpractice of epic proportions. And as a result, Americans and our allies are less safe, not only here at home, but also abroad. This has real serious national security implications. I spent 3 years at the Pentagon under Secretary of Defense Robert Gates, traveling to Baghdad 14 times as a civilian. I know the impact of a weak commander-in-chief and the impact and how it emboldens our enemies. It's very dangerous. We're in a very difficult and precarious situation. And because of Biden's open border policies, the bad guys, the terrorists, are already in the United States. So when you're talking about an October 7th type attack, it's not if, but when.
Yeah, 14 trips to Baghdad is impressive. I think I made 4, so you got me by 10. Even Democratic lawmakers don't seem confident in the White House these days, Mark. House and Senate Democrats meeting in Washington today to discuss Biden's candidacy, and it seems that a lot of them are concerned that Biden could hurt their chances of getting reelected. How worried should they be?
The Democrats should be incredibly worried, because it's going to impact not only their poll numbers back home in their districts and their states, but it's also going to impact their fundraising numbers by attaching themselves to Joe Biden. But as we know that Joe Biden doesn't want to go. I interviewed Ronnie Jackson a few weeks ago, and he said something that I thought was so profound. He said, getting to know the Bidens when I was White House physician for 8 years, he said it was crystal clear of how ambitious Jill Biden was, and that she wanted to be first lady more than she wanted her next breath. And so the problem is you've got so many people in the White House and the West Wing whose power is dependent upon Joe Biden being in the White House, and Jill Biden especially. This is all she's wanted her entire life, to be first lady. She's not going to go down easy. Yeah. But what it's doing is creating a nightmare scenario for Democrats across the country, and the polling is reflecting.
She does not. Yeah, I'm sorry, but she does not want to let go, Joe Biden. It's very, very obvious. I do want to remind our viewers that we're waiting for Donald Trump to take the stage. We expect it to happen within minutes, like very, very soon. So stick with us. And I have one more question for you, Mark. I know it's late in the game, but it's not too late to replace Joe Biden. They could still do it. And I wonder if you think the Democrats will, in fact, shift to a new candidate, most likely the vice president, Kamala Harris, or stick with Biden all the way up to the convention, all the way up to the next debate and to the election.
You're beginning to see in a strategic Washingtonian way the base starting to rally around Kamala Harris. She's becoming more vocal. They're putting her out at campaign events. She's starting to pick up a little bit more press. This is a coordinated effort by MSDNC and CNN. I mean, they have completely turned on Joe Biden, and they have nonstop wall-to-wall coverage of Joe Biden, his incapacitation, the mistakes that he's making. There's no doubt that this is being orchestrated and that Kamala is waiting in the wings.
Yeah, clearly. Mark Vargas, excellent job today. Thank you so much. Of course, we are continuing to watch the podium down in Miami. We'll take you there live as soon as the rally begins. When we come back, though, the details on the next test for Biden, hosting a high-stakes NATO Summit in Washington. Stick around.
Hi, folks. We're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
Are you getting everything from Medicare you deserve? You need Medicare for You. It reveals how to maximize benefits while improving your health care. Medicare for You shows you how to reduce costs, improve coverage, get procedures approved, and avoid 4 big mistakes and scams. Make sure Medicare works for you. Get Medicare for You at bookstores or see the free offer. Go online now or call today. Your health is too important to wait.
Hi folks, we're back. If you've been injured in an accident that's not your fault and you don't have an attorney, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions and tell you what your case is potentially worth. Pick up the phone, call now.
You learn pretty fast that there are no shortcuts in racing or in life. One of my first attempts to deal with my own hair loss was a literal shortcut. Thankfully, my wife found Hair Club. I was shocked the Hair Club had virtually every solution possible. If I had known about Hair Club sooner, I never would have tried any of those overhyped advertised solutions. You can get your own free personalized consultation with a hair loss expert and be on your way to the finish line in no time.
Scan the code on your screen now to schedule a free consultation and save 20% on select solutions using promo code Frankie.
If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing coverage, you may qualify for a special enrollment period, and you might have questions about Medicare Advantage plans. Like, how is the Medicare Advantage plan different from original Medicare? The Medicare Advantage plan often offers additional benefits that original Medicare does not cover. What plan benefits are available? Plan and plan benefits vary by where you live. Our partners offer plans from Humana, Aetna, Anthem Blue Cross and Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Kaiser Permanente, Cigna Healthcare, WellCare, so you can compare your options, coverage, and pricing across multiple carriers. How do I check my eligibility? If you're new to Medicare, recently moved, or losing your coverage, it's easy. Make the free call to the number on your screen. Give them your zip code. Choose the plan with the benefits that meets your needs and budget. The call and consultation are free, and there is no obligation.
I just became eligible for Medicare, so I called to find a plan that fits my budget.
Call 800-416-7175.
Hi folks, Joe Namath here. And if you're having a hard time hearing, call MD Hearing because they changed my life and they can change yours too. I was wearing expensive hearing aids for years until a good friend of mine told me about MD Hearing. I bought a pair of the hearing aids with no doctor visit, no prescription, and no hassle. I got fitted right over the phone, and I've never had a better pair of hearing aids. I'm even wearing them right now.
Call now and get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids for just $297 with a free portable charging case and free shipping. The rechargeable Neo is nearly invisible with its tiny in-the-ear canal design, and you can get 2 rechargeable Neo hearing aids with a 45-day risk-free trial, free shipping, and free lifetime US-based support for only $297.
Call my friends at MD Hearing and get the over-the-counter hearing aids that I use for you.
Call 800-381-4294.
Welcome back to the Leventhal Report. Another live look in Doral in Miami, where former President Donald Trump is set to begin his first rally since the day after the debate a couple weeks ago. We will, of course, bring you his remarks in their entirety live as soon as he approaches the podium. But for right now, turning to our nation's capital, where the 2024 NATO Summit kicked off today. This is the first time the convention has gathered in Washington in 25 years. Our national correspondent, Alana Austin, joins us from downtown D.C. to break down this crucial week with all eyes on how Biden performs. Alana?
President Joe Biden will hope to perform well on the world stage as jittery Democrats are looking on, concerned about how he may fare with the busy schedule ahead. The White House is looking to highlight the president's record on NATO. There will be formal dinners, bilateral meetings, and press conferences throughout the week. Here in our nation's capital, allies are celebrating 75 years since the inception of NATO. Diplomats and world leaders will also be discussing next steps for how to confront Russian aggression. The Biden administration is focusing on its push for NATO allies and counterparts to work together and increase investments toward defense. Plus, the White House will celebrate the recent additions of Sweden and Finland to NATO. The Biden administration is also emphasizing that Ukraine has a path forward to officially joining this military alliance. But President Joe Biden's jam-packed schedule this week comes at a time when congressional Democrats and donors are on edge about his chances of beating former President Donald Trump this November. A new report by the Wall Street Journal says how Biden's inner circle worked to keep signs of aging under wraps. The article reveals how senior advisors have stage managed the president's schedule, movements, and interactions for more than a year. The report also looks back to June 2022. German officials were aware of Biden's declining condition and fatigue at night. A planned event with Chancellor Olaf Scholz did not take place as planned. The Wall Street Journal reports Biden didn't show, surprising the chancellor and his aides, officials said. Instead, Secretary of State Antony Blinken arrived and announced that Biden had to go to bed, according to two people who were there. Well, Biden administrations have pushed back on those claims, saying that report is not accurate. Meantime, top press secretaries Karine Jean-Pierre and John Kirby say that this Thursday, the president will host a big boy press conference.
After that, the president will hold a press conference, I guess a big boy press conference is what we're calling it, and take some questions from y'all.
This week, President Biden will speak to national labor leaders of AFL-CIO, host the NATO Summit to show the unprecedented strength of our alliance, hold a press conference, a big boy press conference, according to Justin Sink from Bloomberg.
Well, all eyes will be on this summit and on the White House in the days ahead. Once again, as the Biden administration looks to reassure members of the party about the president's re-election odds. Back to you.
Alana, thank you. I am sitting here in shock. They actually pitched a Joe Biden press conference as a big boy press conference. Like, it is big news that Joe Biden is actually going to take actual questions from the media. Something that Donald Trump did, I want to say, multiple times a day when he was president. Big boy, really? I can't wait to bring in our next two guests while we watch the feed here from Doral, and we will take you to that rally as soon as Donald Trump takes that stage. Retired Army veteran Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer is with us, along with former National Security Advisor to President Trump and retired Air Force Brigadier General and U.S. Deputy Military Representative to NATO, Blaine Holt. You guys are the best guys to talk to about what's happening in D.C. right now. But before we get to that, it just occurred to me watching Alana's report that this is like PSYOPs, what the White House is doing, what the Biden administration is doing. It's PSYOPs, trying to pull the wool over the country's eyes about his condition.
Yeah, this is amazing period of history for us, because against the backdrop of this NATO summit, you have a world that is escalating towards a potential global conflict. We have wars all over the world, but they're starting to connect. They're starting to come together. This is exactly how World War II got going. And no one needs to be hyperbolic about it. You have the backdrop of the European economies in shambles. The European elections are going the other way. And they're all looking for American leadership that they haven't found since the second that we lost in Kabul. And all of this got spawned because of the dearth of American leadership. Now they're all scrambling, trying to cover up what we have all known for some time. The president is having trouble. And what we have to do is we have to find out, well, how much were you covering up and what did you all know? Because this is a matter of national security. Nukes are 7 minutes away.
Tony, I'm going to give you a different question. The Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, offered praise to NATO while calling on members to meet their targeted annual spending of at least 2% of their GDP on defense. Here's John Kirby boasting about Biden's progress with NATO.
On the point about European countries, NATO members boosting their defense spending, that was something, though, that was a big concern of the last president. It's part of the reason many of them are boosting their funding.
And it was a concern of the president before the last president. As you recall, President Obama said the same thing. This pledge goes back a decade or so. But the numbers speak for themselves, Ed. I mean, rather than browbeating and yelling and screaming and complaining and whining about it, President Biden invested in this alliance. And just the last 3.5 years now, more than double the number of allies have reached that 2%.
More than double of what, Tony? Are NATO members still not paying their share?
Well, the Canadians aren't either. Justin Trudeau and his eyebrows apparently are deadbeats. Who would have thought? And let me be clear on this. The last 10 years, NATO has seen the Russians gain more territory than ever in its history. Think about that. And yet they're trying to talk about numbers. This is how wackadoodle this administration is, Rick. Let me be very clear on this next point. Numbers and funding doesn't equate to credible deterrence. Credible deterrence, the only time the Russians didn't regain territory in the past 10 years was when President Trump was president. Gee, big surprise there. So what they're trying to do is equate process to success. It doesn't work that way. Success is actually formed when you have a credible deterrent that the adversary is afraid to challenge. Right now, as we speak, Jan Stoltenberg just got the Presidential Medal of Freedom for being completely feckless as the chairman, as the director of NATO. Think about that. On his watch over the past 10 years, we have the failed Ukrainian strategy, the loss of territory in Georgia, a loss of territory in some of the other former Warsaw Pact nations, and an aggressive Russia. So he's being rewarded for that. At the same time, they're talking about to be a credible deterrent to Russia, we have to find 30 to 50 brigades. Rick, you've been around the military for a while. Reuters reported today you need to find that many brigades, plus find a way to replenish the Patriot missiles that we've been given. Right now, Germany went 36 Patriot missile batteries to 9. And so what are we supposed to be deterring Russia with, since all the weapons we were supposed to use for this have been given to Ukraine and lost? It's insane.
Yeah. Blaine, I keep seeing these stories about NATO members so worried about a second Trump presidency. Is that true? Are we only hearing about the ones who don't like him? Because I would imagine there are some world leaders, members of NATO, who actually want Trump back in the White House.
Yeah. They will never say it publicly by the microphones. Doesn't play very well with any audience, however. They would love to have stability back. They would love to have the conditions for prosperity back. The thing about NATO and NATO's leaders is they're never going to applaud Trump, but they'll certainly. I remember very clearly when a French one-star came into my office when I was the NATO U.S. one-star, and he said to me, and this was during the administration before Trump, he said, "Where's America? Listen, we're going to complain about you either way, but we really need your leadership back in the game here." And it's very true, and that's the way it is with President Trump. And it'll return that way again. They'll work with him, and I've talked to our president, and President Trump will lead NATO effectively and wonderfully, but it'll be a deterrent organization, not one that seeks to wildly expand its borders and adventurism into a whole lot of wars and not deterring them.
Well, Blaine, it sounds like Hollywood, people in Hollywood, so scared to tell anyone that they support President Trump. But secretly, a lot of them do. Trust me on that. As we continue to watch this live feed, gentlemen, we expect Donald Trump to approach the podium anytime now. And thanks for bearing with us here while we watch the stage. Wait for Donald Trump. His sons, both of his sons, Don Jr. and Eric, were out there addressing the crowd. And so was Marco Rubio, who many believe is on the short list to potentially be Trump's pick for vice president, and which he probably will announce at the convention. A bit more about NATO, though. This is the first time, as I mentioned, in 25 years that the summit is actually in Washington. And a lot of people see this as Biden's chance to prove to the world that he actually is mentally competent to lead the free world. But there have been so many recent signs that he doesn't appear to be up to the task. Tony, your thoughts on that as we interrupt your vacation, it looks like.
Yeah, look, I'm in Orlando, but what can I say? So, and I did see Trump 2 weeks ago in Chesapeake, and he was brilliant. Almost hour 45 minutes talking in 90-degree heat, but I digress. On the question of Biden's ability to be the commander-in-chief, there was a telling question today that my friend Peter Doocy asked the press secretary, and it was, what happens if there's a nuclear missile coming our way? Do they call Jill Biden? And I think it was like he meant to be a little bit pointed, and he was. But the answer should frighten everybody. Oh, there's a team. There's a team. That team cannot exist. There has to be a legitimate legal framework of individuals who are ready to respond. There's a handful of individuals who are authorized to react and respond, and authorized a response or a nuclear release. So the idea that Jake Sullivan and a bunch of guys playing Parcheesi at midnight are the guys that are going to respond, that's not legal. It's not proper. And this only telegraphs weakness to our adversaries. This was a horrible, horrible admission.
It's a great point, Tony. America didn't elect a team. I mean, I guess they elected Biden with Kamala, but they didn't elect these faceless, nameless people who are hovering around and burning the midnight oil while Biden sleeps the night away. And America does deserve a president who is on point and on call and ready to act at a moment's notice. And that's apparently what we don't have right now. Meanwhile, Blaine, while this NATO summit takes place, Putin is meeting with the Indian Prime Minister, perhaps trying to build some support as Russia continues to suffer through these sanctions that were imposed by many Western nations. How is Russia's economy doing right now, and how worried should we be about a more powerful, financially stable Russia in the near future?
Russia's stronger now than when it started this war 2.5 years ago. They have flipped these sanctions, found new markets for their wares. They are the #1 GDP in Europe. It's Europe that's committing suicide by cutting itself off from oil, paying 3 times for our propane or our liquid natural gas. Here's what's happening with Putin and Modi. While we're talking tactics at NATO, while we're talking about how can we blow up another refinery in Belgorod, what they're talking about is strategy. What they're talking about is the other battlefield that no one talks about, and that's the economic security battlefield. The BRICS plus pay system just came online 3 days ago to rival the SWIFT system, and that is by the end of the summer, they want to pull that in as a central bank digital currency in the BRICS system to replace the US dollar. Let me tell you something. If they are successful, we will not print our way out of another problem ever again. We will be in far deeper trouble than we are right now. And so my suggestion is we better get strategic fast, and we better start learning about how to end wars, not start them. And we better understand how macroeconomics works as a nation.
Exactly.
It strikes me that, I mean, we pretty much know that members of the military seem to be more behind Trump than Biden. We know that law enforcement as a group appears to be behind Trump rather than Biden. What about the intelligence community? Are you guys and your colleagues, do you think there is a lean towards Trump, or are they happy with Joe Biden and the job he's doing?
So I'll start.
Tony, you can go first.
Yeah, so the intelligence community is, I'm almost ashamed to be part of the intelligence community at times, because you had those 51 knuckleheads who literally use their positions of authority to lie. And so I can tell you that a lot of folks within the intelligence community are committed to whoever's in power, and those who are normally most willing to give benefit to the intelligence community is allowed. They don't hold people accountable. They promote failure, like we just saw with Jan Stoltenberg getting this award for failure. So at this point, I think a lot of folks fear his return to the intelligence community. I do know that there are good people. I talk to them. I have contacts, but they're a minority. And those who are there, Rick, like Hollywood, they're very reluctant to say anything because they'll be shown the door very quickly if they show any pro-Trump inkling.
Blaine, I'll give you a chance to weigh in on that.
Yeah, he's got it exactly right. Look, there are tons of good people who, and let me put it this way, not partisan, but more oriented towards their constitutional oath, to swear an oath to a constitution, not an administration. And whether they think they might vote for a Trump or a Biden, they are good Americans who will do the right thing. And they are many, but they also feel that they better keep that under wraps, because there are many in this administration who will judge you by your allegiances to a president and an administration and an ideology, not the founding document, which anything else is absolutely against the law.
Yeah. Listen, you guys have been great. We really appreciate you being here and helping to answer all these deep questions while we wait for Donald Trump to take the podium there. It does strike me, though, with all eyes on Biden and everyone saying, oh, this is the test, how he performs with world leaders during this NATO summit. Every day is a test now. Tony? I mean, it's gotten a little ridiculous, don't you think? That, oh, maybe if he passes this test, he'll be okay. My understanding of cognitive decline and aging is that the older you get, the worse it gets. And we've seen the decline over 5 years. It's not going to get better. It's only going to get worse. And people don't want to believe what they're seeing and hearing. But I'm sorry, from my perspective, it's absolutely the case. This guy is losing it. He's not getting better. He's getting worse. Your thoughts, Tony?
So the press, except us, have been lying to the American public. I said 2 months ago that it looked like Parkinson's to me. And now, lo and behold, we have evidence of 8 visits in 8 months by a Parkinson expert from the Military District of Washington, from Walter Reed. So, okay, is every day a test? Well, yeah, Rick, to your point, every day is a test if you can barely figure out who your wife is, and you have to be reminded of close personal friends. There was this report from the New Yorker. Olivia Nunzi, I think, said that he could not remember her name, even though they'd known each other for years. So, the media's been covering this up. It's not acceptable. And then you have John Kirby, my friend John Kirby, with his big boy meeting that he was talking about. Look, John refused to talk about the diminished faculties of this president. And to me, that's dereliction of duty by John Kirby. He's still a retired admiral. He still took an oath of office, and I find that unacceptable.
Yeah. Well, it was funny when Donald Trump Jr. was on stage. He said something like, if Joe Biden was your Uber driver, would you get in the car? And people were like, no. And he goes, well, what if it was a friend of yours? Would you let them get in the car? No. What if it was your enemy? Like, people are like, yeah. Like, the earlier analogy I heard was if he was flying the plane that you were getting on, would you want to get on that plane and take that flight? But, I mean, it's kind of true, Blaine, that this isn't really a guy you'd want driving your car, let alone leading the nation.
Yeah. Elder abuse is a terrible thing, and we hate that. They've got to take care of him as a human being and as an individual. The problem goes to national security. He's got access to the football and is expected to use it. And that is another matter altogether. So we don't begrudge the president's personal problem. We don't, we wish him and his family the best, but they've got to do what's right for the country.
I couldn't agree more. And I often have to apologize on this program for basically beating up on an old guy. And I don't like doing it. I mean, I'm kind of an old guy myself. But he took this job. Yeah, it's true. I mean, it happens to all of us, to the best of us. But he took this job, agreed to serve America. And we can all see that he doesn't quite have what it takes to do that job anymore. Again, Tony Shaffer, Blaine Holt, really appreciate you being with us here on the Leventhal Report. Always a pleasure to have you guys. We're watching the live feed from Doral. That's Trump's golf club down in Miami. Doral is in the Miami metropolitan area. Eric spoke earlier about how they bought that club and spent every day there restoring it to glory. It had fallen on hard times. And they went in there and they fixed it up and they turned it into a showpiece. I believe that was the word he used. I mean, they turned it into a spectacular property. And he said that's what they will do for America. And I thought that was a really, really good point to make, that this is a guy, former President Trump, who knows how to build things, knows how to run a business, and he has really impressive properties across the nation, many of them. So he's got a track record for being able to build things and make things nicer than they were before. And what he's arguing for is another opportunity to do that as president of the United States. And I love that moment in the debate a couple weeks ago when he said, look, I don't need to be here. I could be playing golf every day. I have plenty of properties. I can go hang out. I don't need to be president, but I can't let this guy do it anymore. And he used that as a reason why he wants to be president again. We are waiting on President Trump, former President Trump, who's obviously running a bit late this evening. But we're going to stay with the feed, stay with this, and as soon as he approaches the stage, we will take it live and bring you all of his remarks live without commercial interruption. David Harris Jr. also standing by, will be joining us shortly to walk us into the event and share his thoughts on what he hopes to hear tonight, maybe who Trump's vice presidential pick might be, and what he hopes to hear from the former and potential future president. Now I see the cameras zooming in on a golf cart, fast approaching the stage. There's a second golf cart. That could be the Secret Service. With and behind, oh, there's a third and a fourth and a fifth. There's a lot of golf carts. Let's bring in David Harris Jr. now to, oh, okay. They're telling me in my ear that he needs 30 more seconds. In any event, President Trump has an entourage of golf carts. That's clear. He has a lot of golf carts heading toward the stage. I'm guessing there's family, certainly security, and the president, former president himself, who will be approaching that stage any moment now. David Harris Jr. is now mic'd up and ready to go. What do you hope to hear from former President Trump tonight, David Harris Jr.?
Hey, Rick, blessed to be on with you tonight, my brother. I'm looking forward to President Trump speaking and delivering a very clear message, as he always does, to the American people. He is the America First president. He's the one that's championed Make America Great Again under his watch the first 3 years before COVID. I don't think any American can doubt that our country was doing far greater than we'd done in decades prior. We had a strong border. We had a booming economy. The world feared us, respected us, kind of one and the same. He led with strength and got us to peace. He signed the Abraham Accords. He tried to follow through on as many promises as he could possibly do until the Democratic-controlled Congress tried to just get his way at every chance. But he wanted a strong border. He wanted to build the wall. He moved the embassy to Jerusalem. I think that Americans need a reminder of who this man is, other than just listening to the non-stop lie after lie from legacy media pundit to celebrity to athlete to every woke individual out there that thinks that our country is doing just fine. Meanwhile, Americans are suffering under one of the worst depressions, you could call it, inflation through the roof, lack of job opportunities, people just trying to still get back to work and get their lives back after COVID. I think that President Trump just needs to remind America who he is, who he's been, and let us know that he's got our backs, and that's why he's running.
David, you and I haven't talked about this, but I'm guessing you're as upset as I am about the way Biden's condition had been hidden from the public for so long. Everyone's acting so surprised that he's this bad off now, and yet he's been this bad for quite some time, and they were basically hiding him from America.
Yeah, and that's the shocker, that for those that are shocked, right? If they're watching your show, if they're watching my show, the Pulse you're on into, if they're watching any of the conservative media outlets, which really is just, it's us, there's a couple others, or influencers, right? I've got over 4 million followers on social media, and I've been championing and shouting this from the rooftops for 3 years before Joe took office. You know, regardless of how he took office, he took office. So even before that took place, I was trying to warn Americans on the absolute detriment that would be a President Joe Biden. And now we've lived through it, we've seen it, and now all of a sudden legacy media has to face it because of the national, international debacle of Joe Biden on that debate stage. So now they have to try to save face. I think ultimately this is still playing into their playbook. I think they're going to continue to champion Joe Biden, at least from the White House, until he has to step down for health reasons. And then we're going to have to deal with, are they going to really actually prop up and use Kamala? They can't use any money that's gone to the Biden-Kamala campaign for somebody else. So they're kind of left with just being stuck with Joe. So I really hope that the people that are seeing this take place understand that legacy media has been lying to them intentionally and willfully, and hopefully they stop watching MSNBC, CNN, ABC, NBC, and they start watching you, Rick, or they start watching me right after your show.
I couldn't agree more. This is where their eyeballs should be, and it is disgusting to me how badly the media behaved, how hard they worked to not tell the truth about just how bad off President Biden is. And even the White House press secretary standing up there and spinning lies about cheap, fake videos when we can all see from the lens of a pool camera just how bad off Biden is. Again, we expect President Trump to be taking that stage any minute now, and we will take his remarks in their entirety without commercial interruption. David, one of the big things that we still don't know yet is who President Trump is going to pick for his running mate. While we have some time here, do you have a favorite on that short list?
You know, I can't say that I have a favorite. What I can say is that I've been looking at who has been propped up, who are the potentials. You know, we've heard all of their names. There's a lot of amazing individuals out there. And then I'll just tell you, because I just did some research last night, I heard Doug Burgum. And I said, who's this governor from North Dakota? I'm like, what is he about? I hadn't really heard of him before. So it led me to look into him. And initially I was like, who is this guy? Why would Trump pick somebody? If this is even the pick. Why would he choose somebody that nobody knows some? But there's actually a lot of positive things about Doug, so we'll wait and find out what the president has to say.
Let me interrupt for 1 second, David. We're hearing that Trump is now coming out. You can see in the shot all those cell phones being held up in the air. Everyone wants to get their own video of former President Donald Trump. You can see him now.
God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, where there's pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me. And I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. The men who died, who gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. 'Cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the
Thank you very much. Thank you. And hello, Doral. I love Doral. Hello, Miami. And hello, Florida. Thank you. There is nowhere else I'd rather be on this beautiful, cold, very cold summer evening than right here in the middle of the 10th hole. Beautiful hole, isn't it? Look at that lake. Isn't it beautiful? On one of the greatest golf courses on earth, and we really want to thank all of the tens of thousands of people that showed up. This is a lot of people. This is a lot of people. As the world can see, we are under the leadership. The Republican Party is bigger, stronger, more vibrant, and more united than ever, ever, ever before. Every day we are welcoming more Americans to our ranks, African Americans, Hispanic Americans, Asian Americans, young people, old people, union members, non-union members. Basically, everyone is joining our movement because it's a movement of common sense. It's common sense. Whatever happened to common sense in government? We've got it. We've got more than anybody's ever had. Meanwhile, the radical left Democrat Party is divided in chaos and having a full-scale breakdown, all because they can't decide which of their candidates is more unfit to be president, sleepy, crooked Joe Biden or laughing Kamala. Laughing Kamala. As you know, in our recent debate, and in honor of all of you, I dealt Joe Biden even according to the fake news media, the most decisive and overwhelming defeat in the history of presidential debates. I think so, right? I think so. And that was a big crowd that was watching. That was one of the highest rated shows ever on television, so I'm honored to be a part of it. I don't think he's too happy, but, you know, I like being a part of it. But even CNN said as I walked off the stage that it was one of the greatest performances they've ever seen. But it was sort of easy, if you want to know the truth. Our victory was so absolute that Joe's own party now wants him to throw in the towel and surrender the presidency after a single 90-minute performance. They want Crooked Joe out of the race. It's a shame the way they're treating him. But don't feel sorry for him. He's a very bad guy. He weaponized government. Remember that. He's a very bad guy. Don't feel sorry for him. So tonight I'm officially offering Joe the chance to redeem himself in front of the entire world. So Marco and Byron and everybody, here's what we're going to do. You guys can be referees if you like. Let's do another debate this week so that Sleepy Joe Biden can prove to everyone all over the world that he has what it takes to be president. But this time it will be man-to-man, no moderators, no holes barred. Just name the place, anytime, anywhere. And in the debate, Sleepy Joe also declared that he wanted to test his skills and stamina against mine on the golf course. Can you believe this? Did you ever see him swing? He's like this. Yeah. That's why this evening I am also, and this is in honor of you and everybody, it is 45,000 people. That's a lot of people. I'm also officially challenging Crooked Joe to an 18-hole golf match right here. On Doral's Blue Monster, considered one of the greatest tournament golf courses anywhere in the world, one of the great courses of the world. It will be among the most watched sporting events in history, maybe bigger than the Ryder Cup or even the Masters. And I will even give Joe Biden 10 strokes aside. 10 strokes, that's a lot. That means 20 strokes in case you don't play golf. I will give him 10 strokes aside, and if he wins, I will give the charity of his choice, any charity that he wants, $1 million. And I'll bet you he doesn't take the offer. I would bet because he's all talk. But what that match will do is prove that Joe is, in fact, all talk and no action. But on many things, not just golf. When pilots walk into the White House, he says he used to fly planes. He didn't. When truckers come in, he says he used to drive a truck. He didn't. When Jewish people are here, he always attended synagogues, he said, the Jewish people. He didn't attend a synagogue. Did he ever see a synagogue? He doesn't know what a synagogue is. When black people come, he spent his Sundays in black churches. All of it's false, all of it's fake. He's a fake. Unfortunately, he was like that in Afghanistan. He was like that with Russia, Ukraine, and he was like that on October 7th and the attack in Israel. He didn't know what he was doing. But whatever else can be said about Crooked Joe Biden, you have to give him credit for one brilliant decision, probably the smartest decision he's ever made. He picked Kamala Harris as his vice president. No, it was brilliant because it was an insurance policy, maybe the best insurance policy I've ever seen, Marco. If Joe had picked someone even halfway competent, they would have bounced him from office years ago, but they can't because she's got to be their second choice. She has no choice and no chance. As vice president, Kamala Harris was given two jobs, two very important jobs, actually. First, she was put in charge of the U.S. border security and the border. And she never showed up. She's never gone. She never went there once. And the border's the worst border in the history of the world, not just in the number of years, the worst. We had the best border in history. She has the worst border in the history of the world. And then she was sent to Europe to deter Russia from attacking Ukraine. How did that work out? Not too good. Both times the result was a deadly failure. Since Kamala was made border czar, the Biden-Harris administration has lost track of an estimated 150,000 children, many of whom have undoubtedly been raped, trafficked, killed, or horribly abused. I think of it, 150,000 children are missing. They're gone. Nobody knows where they are. Many are not with us any longer. She's 100% for the Green New scam, supports banning the sale of gas-powered cars. Who wants to drive an electric car for the rest of your life? Does anybody? You don't want to drive for 45 minutes and then stop for 3 hours. Is that what you're saying? And wants the American energy industry totally shut down, starting with Pennsylvania fracking and Texas drilling. No drilling in Texas, no fracking in Pennsylvania. We just got a poll from Pennsylvania with 12 points up. That's a lot. We got a poll from Texas with 16 points up. And we have some great people from Texas here tonight. And as a senator, Kamala sided with socialist Bernie Sanders. He's a real socialist. He's serious. But not as bad as Biden turned out to be. Bernie's embarrassed by some of the things that Biden did because they push him around. It's the ultra-far-left government takeover of the entire health care system. And I don't think Kamala Harris's California socialism is going to go down well with the people of Doral, the people of Miami, or the people of Florida. Because in Florida, we don't like socialism. We want our freedom, right? We want our freedom. And we have a lot of people, Marco, from Cuba, from Venezuela, from all over. And they don't want to hear about socialism or communism. Thank you. Despite all the Democrat panic this week, the truth is it doesn't matter who they nominate because we are going to beat any one of them in thundering landslides. And this November is going to be amazing, going to be the most important election in the history of our country because our country's going down the tubes. That's a nice way of saying our country's not doing too well. We've never had anything like it, our borders, our economy, the worst inflation ever. We have the politics on our side. We have the policies on our side that will make America great again, and they don't. They will only continue to destroy our nation. Our nation is being destroyed. Joe, Kamala, and the entire Democrat establishment have been caught red-handed in the thick of the biggest scandal and the biggest cover-up. It's a cover-up. That's what it is. And I said it when they hit this guy in the basement and then they cheated on the election. It's a cover-up. It's the biggest cover-up in political history. As you know, they are all co-conspirators in the sinister plot to defraud the American public about the cognitive abilities of the man in the Oval Office. Sometimes he's there, not there often. Laughing Kamala, L-A-F-F-I-N apostrophe. Laughing. Laughing Kamala was in on it. Crazy Nancy Pelosi, who, by the way, is also very cognitively impaired. Have you watched her lately? She's not doing too well. She's not doing too well. I think she's worse than Joe. You want to know that? She was in on it. Crying Chuck Schumer. You ever see him cry? He cries when the phoniest crying I've ever seen. Crying Chuck Schumer was in on it. Every Democrat cabinet member was in on it. They all knew this guy was grossly incompetent, and every Democrat in the House and the Senate was in on it. It was a scam. The American people can never trust this group of liars ever again. They've put our country at great risk and danger. That's why we are going to sweep them all out of office this November. I believe it'll be an election like no other. But the biggest problem for the radical left Democrats is that their candidates are very much, if you take a look, mentally deficient. Is that a nice statement? They are mentally deficient. I'm saying that because the other term is too tough. The biggest problem is that their policies are no good. Their policies are horrible. Americans want strong borders, not open borders. We want low taxes, not high taxes. You know, they want to increase your taxes 4 times by 4 times. We want a strong military, not a woke military. We don't have a woke. We have some woke generals at top, but they'll be gone so fast your head will spin. But we have a great military. We have a military that defeated ISIS in 4 weeks once I got in. We want no inflation, not 30 or 50% inflation, which is what you had. Think of it. You were destroyed. People were destroyed with the inflation. I don't even order bacon anymore. You know, bacon's gone up like 5. I said, it's too expensive. I don't want it. I don't want it. No, it's gone up many times, right? Byron likes bacon. Bacon, I think maybe, how many stand up, Byron? Byron, how good is Byron? They say it's gone up 4 times since 4 times. So we don't eat bacon anymore, right? No more. We want American energy independence, not all electric cars and the Green New scam. It's the greatest scam. Above all, we want America first, not America last. They want America last. What they're doing to our country is not even believable. That's why Florida is going to defeat the radical left Democrat hoaxers and liars. And the election day, we are going to tell crooked Joe Biden, Joe, you've done a horrible job. You're fired. Get out, Joe. You're fired. You know, it's only 103 degrees out here. So, you know, they built all these, they call them, sir, we have many water spots. I said, what about one for me? Do I have one? I don't have one, Marco. They gave water spots. Everybody has, they call it a water spot. Where water comes out, you get, they don't have anything for me. I'm being drenched up here. With your vote, I will begin saving our country from every Biden disaster, starting the moment I lift my hand from the Bible after taking the oath of office. We're going to do it on day 1. On day 1, we're going to do it. I will seal the border, stop the invasion. We have an invasion coming through our southern border. And by the way, you know who wants that? You know who wants that invasion stopped the most? Hispanic people, because they don't want their jobs taken. They don't want their homes taken. And you know who it affects the most is black people, because these people are coming in and taking jobs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. What they've done to our country is unbelievable. But we want to send Joe Biden's illegal aliens back home where they belong. Remember, as I said, they come from prisons, they come from jails. All these countries are at record low numbers of crime. They're sending us their criminals from Caracas and Venezuela. Caracas, Venezuela. Next year we'll meet in Venezuela because it will be safe. Their crime has gone down 72% because they've sent all of their drug dealers, their criminals, and most of their prisoners into our country. But that's true with most countries. And if I were running one of the countries throughout the world, not just in South America, I would be doing exactly the same thing. I would have done it faster than they've done it. But our country is being destroyed. 2 weeks ago, it was revealed that Biden and Harris have allowed more than 50 radical Islamic terrorists, some of the worst in the world, by the way, to cross our border and remain at large in our country, and we have no idea where they are. They have no idea also where these terrorists are, but Joe and Kamala are simply carrying on with business as usual, holding fundraisers, taking afternoon naps. And as Joe says, I want to go to the beach today. The guy thinks he looks good in a bathing suit. Did you ever say? No, somebody in his staff told him, you look great in a bathing suit. He can't lift the chair. You know, those chairs are meant for children and old people to lift. Old people and children. And he can't lift them. They weigh about 4 ounces. When I'm president, I promise you this, I will not rest until we have found these radical Islamic terrorists and throw them the hell out of our country. We're going to get them out of here. And we will not let them back in. So many people So many people, very few were thrown out, but the ones that came back in during this Biden administration of open borders, who the hell wants open borders? How crazy is it? Under the Biden border disaster, other countries are emptying out their prisons and their jails. They're emptying out their mental institutions. And I go a step further. You know what an insane asylum is, right? Did anyone ever see the lovely movie Silence of the Lambs? Did you see it? Did you ever hear of Hannibal Lecter? He was a lovely man. He would love to have you for dinner. He will take you. You had many people for dinner. Well, we have a lot of people coming in. They always say, oh, that's terrible, that Trump would say. He is rambling about Hannibal Lecter. No, I'm not rambling. We are allowing people from insane asylums and mental institutions into our country by the tens of thousands. And they're closing them down in other countries. Because, you know, the cost savings and all of the savings, and sending bloodthirsty terrorists, savage gang members, and child predators into the United States to prey on our people, to prey on you, to prey on everybody. They're coming not only from South America, but from all over the world, from Asia, Africa, and every other place. They're coming from all over the world. 2 weeks ago, I spoke to the grieving mother, Jocelyn Nungari, a precious 12-year-old girl from Houston who is tied up, stripped, assaulted, raped, strangled to death after walking the block to a 7-Eleven store on the corner. Her body was dumped near the side of the road in a shallow creek, charged with Jocelyn's heinous murder. Beautiful, beautiful girl. The mother is devastated. Pretty much, I would say, over. The mother, I don't know. I spoke to the mother. Mother is just as you would be, as anybody would be. But charged with Jocelyn's heinous murder are 2 illegal aliens who Joe Biden set loose into our country. He let them loose, and they knew who they were. They came across our border claiming they feared for their lives. No, other people feared for. They feared for their lives when they saw these 2 guys. They didn't fear at all. They had no fear. They're tough people. And Joe Biden and his group of people let them in. We're going to bring back, by the way, we're bringing back Tom Homan. We're bringing back all of the guys that did such a great job on the border. We had the greatest border in history. Brandon Judd, great people. These are great people. One of them was in the country for only 20 days before ending Jocelyn's beautiful American life, and recently in Virginia at Trump National Golf Club in the Potomac River, I had lunch with the mother of and the sister of Rachel Morin. Rachel was a 37-year-old beautiful mother of 5 who was attacked, raped, and brutally murdered while out on a run. She was running. She always wanted to keep herself in good shape, her mother told me. She was a beautiful person. Police believe the sadistic monster charged with Rachel's death first killed another woman in another country, then fled across Joe Biden's wide-open border into the United States, after which he attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother in a home invasion in Los Angeles before murdering Rachel in Maryland. When I return to the White House, we will stop the plunder, rape, slaughter, and destruction of our American suburbs and cities and towns. We're going to stop it. We will shut down deadly sanctuary cities. I will shift massive portions of federal law enforcement to immigration enforcement. We will close up our border, and we want people to come in, but they have to come in legally. They have to come in legally. And on day 1, we will begin the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. We have no choice. And as I say, and I say it all the time, and I already said it to you, no one has been hurt more by the Biden invasion than our great African American and Hispanic American populations. Under Crooked Joe, 109% of all net job creation over the last year has gone to migrants. Did you know that? Almost every job that was created has gone to migrants. In fact, more than every job. It's crushing wages for American workers, draining resources for American citizens, and stealing American jobs. And they are stealing them at levels that nobody's ever seen before. Joe Biden wants to be the president for illegal aliens, but I will be the president for law-abiding Americans of every background, every walk of life, and every race, religion, color, and creed. Joe Biden's job numbers are fake. They're fake numbers, and the fake media knows it, but they don't look at all of them back there. Oh, that's a lot, Marco. That's a lot, Marco. I think they probably think I'm going to be announcing that Marco's going to be vice president. I don't know. Because that's a lot of press. That's a lot of press. They're also overwhelmingly part-time jobs, which really means that they're second jobs of people who are struggling to get by. They're being taken by the illegal migrants that are coming into our country in these record numbers. We've never seen anything. It is indeed an invasion. When I return to the White House, I will once again be the greatest jobs president that God has ever created. And like we had 5 years ago, 6 years ago, 7 years ago, we will have full-time jobs at a level that nobody's ever seen before. We had the greatest economy in the history of the planet. Well-paying jobs and jobs that can support a home and a family very, very easily. We had it all. As everyone knows, the Biden economy is a nightmare for working families under Crooked Joe. Inflation, price hikes, and they've cost, listen to this, $28,000. $28,000. And you know, under Trump, you made $14,000. That's a big swing. Under Biden and Harris, half of Americans are not taking a vacation at all this summer because they can't afford to do it. Most say it's because the cost of daily life is so high, no matter what they make, they can't. Because, you know, they like to say 20%, 29%, 26%, 31%. I think your inflation, your real inflation, is way over 50%, and I believe that. Meanwhile, Crooked Joe has spent almost 50% of his presidency on vacation. Almost all of it, including many, many weeks on the beach. And mansions are in, think of this. Here's a guy that's been a politician all his life. He's got homes in the Virgin Islands, Nantucket, Lake Tahoe, Kiowa Island. I mean, where the hell did they get all this money, Byron? He's got more homes than I do. What the hell is going on with him? And that home he's got in Delaware is pretty nice, right? But remember, they said it was his son's home. You know, his son is running it, right? You know that, right? You know that. He's running our government. And Jill is helping. Jill is helping. Where's Hunter? Remember the sign, where's Hunter? Where's Hunter? He's in the White House. Hunter is in the White House running government right now, they say. That's interesting. No wonder Joe doesn't want to give up the job. His own staff says that the only hours he works are 10 a.m. to 4. Does anybody here have a job like that? Raise your hand, please. And I doubt he even spends that. And today he's with the people from NATO. And these people are sharp. I know them very well, every one of them. They're very smart. They're at the top of their game. And they're saying, what the hell is with this guy? We can't figure it out. You know, I saved NATO because when I went down, hey, Barack Hussein Obama, has anyone ever heard of him? He would go and, you know, go to wherever they're holding the NATO meeting, and he'd make a nice speech and he'd leave. And Bush would go and make a nice speech and he would leave, in all fairness. Bush, oh yeah. But he'd make a nice speech and he'd leave. They'd all go make speeches and they'd leave. They wouldn't even stay there a day. I went and didn't make a nice speech. I said, what the hell are you doing? Nobody's paying. Nobody was paying. But I didn't want to be obnoxious because I felt, you know, it's the first time I'd ever done this. I went, I didn't even know what the hell NATO was too much before, but it didn't take me long to figure it out, like about 2 minutes. And the first thing I figured out was they weren't paying. We were paying. We were paying almost fully for NATO. And I said, that's unfair, but I didn't want to make a big mess. You know, I was president for about 15 minutes, and I didn't want to, you know, go after NATO as my first thing. But 6 months later, I went back to the second meeting, and I said, you know what? You're not paying your bills. You got to pay your bills. Somebody stood up from one of the countries, 28 countries, and only 7 were paying what they should be paying. 28 countries, think of that. And these countries, now we added a couple, but 28 countries. And they said, sir, could I ask you, I said, you have to pay your bills. They said, sir, may I ask you a question? if we don't pay our bills, will you protect us from Russia? I said, you mean you're delinquent? They said, yes, we're delinquent. Let's say we're delinquent. Would you protect us? I said, no, I will not protect you from Russia. The money came in by the billions. It came in. There's never been, right? There has never been. Where's Waltz? Where's Congressman Waltz? Am I correct, Mr. Guy? This guy loves the military. He gets sick when he looks at what we're doing, but he loves it. Is that right? I got billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars came pouring in because he said, oh, this guy's a little different than the other guys. But Joe Biden is a part-time president while you are working overtime to get by. He's a part-time president. He doesn't work. Well, he can't work because he's mentally no good. He's shot. But he was shot 25 years ago. You know, he was never a smart person. In fact, Ted Kennedy was actually a friend of mine. Can you believe it? Because of Palm Beach. He lived in Palm Beach. The Kennedy compound, for those that think the Kennedys are struggling, they had the Kennedy compound, but I did him a favor, and he liked me, and I was very good to him, actually. And I said to him, Ted, let me ask you a question. Who's the smartest senator? Tell me. And he gave me a name, but I won't say it because I can't stand the guy, okay? I'll tell you later, Marco, who he said. It wasn't you because you weren't there yet, so it can't be. But I said, who's the smartest? He gave me a name. I said, so who's the dumbest? He goes, probably Joe. This is like 20 years ago, 20-something years ago. Probably Joe. I said, who's Joe? He said, Joe Biden. I said, really? He's a dumb guy? Yeah, he didn't understand policy. He didn't understand tax. He didn't understand anything. He's hale and hearty and well met. And outside of his really bad hair, he's, you know, sort of a good-looking guy at the time, right? I think the facelift did not help him, didn't it? No, he said, I'm going to get myself a facelift. I'm going to give it one more try. You know, he tried it 3 or 4 times. Didn't work. He tried it 3 or 4 times, then he said, I'm going to look great. I'm going to get a facelift. You know what took him so long to get into the race? The facelift didn't work. Under my leadership, we will make America affordable again so that every American family can afford to take a thing called a vacation. Isn't that nice? And on day one, we will throw out Bidenomics and replace it with a thing called MAGA-nomics. We will quickly build the greatest economy in the history of the world. I will repeal every disastrous Biden regulation, of which there are many. Cancel Crooked Joe's insane electric vehicle mandate. How stupid. And we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill like we never drilled before. We were energy independent 4 years ago. Think of it. We're going to be energy dominant within months. 4 years ago, energy independent. I will deliver large tax cuts, larger than you even have now. Do you know, I tell the story to people. It's hard to believe. I reduced taxes, the largest tax cuts in the history of our country. I reduced them bigger than the Reagan tax cuts many years ago. And with a lower rate, the following year, we took in much more tax money. Think of it. So we're getting much less. That meant for small businesses, large businesses, because that's what the job creators are. For middle-income people, low-income people, everybody. And he wants to let that expire. And if you do, your taxes are going to go up about 5 times, 4 times to 5 times more. How would you feel if they raised your taxes by 4 or 5 times? Not 2. And remember that when you're going into the voting booth. Do I want to have a terrible president who has no idea where the hell he is? And less importantly, do I want to pay 4 times more tax? And remember, what I'm going to do is something that nobody's ever even thought about doing. No tax on tips. For all of you waitresses, for all of you caddies at Doral. You know, I came to Doral, and there were some caddies at the shack. We call it Caddy Shack. It's the most beautiful caddy shack I've ever seen. We have the world's most beautiful. They sit down and watch television. And I never had this before. They were out for a round. They're very sweaty, very, very sweaty guys. You know, look, they're carrying bags all over the place. Not easy. It's 100 degrees out today, 103, 104. And they saw me, and they gave me the biggest hug. I said, get the hell out of here. You're soaking wet. I said, why do you like me so much today, but in the past you never touched me and kissed me and hugged me? It's very simple, sir. No tax on tips. Thank you very much. So for caddies, for waitresses, I mean, it's tremendous. And it's a very complicated thing, frankly, for the government to collect. But they've issued new rules and regulations that make it very bad for people. The reason I thought of this, I was in Nevada, where we're leading, by the way, a lot. We're up by like 14 points in Nevada. That's supposed to be a little bit Democrat territory, but we're leading in Nevada, and a waitress came over, beautiful waitress, and I never like talking about physics because she's beautiful inside. Because you never talk about a person's look, ever. You never mention it. The other day, I got very angry. Some man called Chris Christie fat, and I said, sir, and then he said he was a pig. I said, sir, Chris Christie is not a fat pig. Please remember that. He is not a fat pig. Please take it back. And the guy's looking at me like, really? No, we have to defend people. You can't call people fat. So I said about 9 times, he is not a fat pig. So every time you leave a tip for the next 4 months, because it's going to go into effect very quickly, make sure that you write on the receipt, vote Trump for no tax on trips. No tax on tips. That's a good one. No, but the waitress said, I said, how are you doing? She said, she worked there a long time, great person, beautiful person. And she said, oh, it's brutal with the government, what they do to us. It's crazy. They come, you know, they put on 88,000 people to go and take advantage of people like that. And she said, it's brutal. I said, you know, I have a great idea. How about no tax on tips? That was the extent of my study. One waitress. But it's true. It made so much. Isn't it funny that nobody ever thought of that but me? Isn't that weird? But it's a great thing, and they deserve their money. They work hard for it. They deserve it. They deserve it. Marco, you're going to vote for it, I hope. Well, you may or may not be there to vote for it, but you'll be involved. It's no wonder Joe Biden and his thugs are so desperate to stop us. They know that we are the only ones who can stop them. That's why they are weaponizing law enforcement against their opponents. They are turning America into communist Cuba or socialist Venezuela. By the way, Venezuela is much more than socialist by now. You know that, right? We got who's here from Venezuela? Who's here from Cuba? You know, I had it all done with Cuba. They didn't rig the election. Within 6 months, we were going to have that all worked out. They were ready. Then Biden came in, right? Then Biden came in, he opened it up. It's a disgrace. Trying to silence dissent and put their political adversaries behind bars. He wants to put me behind bars. My parents are looking down saying this was not planned when he went to the Wharton School of Finance. The great Alphonse Capone, you know Alphonse, a very nice gentleman, very fine man. Scarface, they call him in some territory. Here's a scar from here to here. He didn't get it by playing tiddlywinks either. No, he was a guy that, see this man right up here is a very tough guy. I know him, he's tough as hell. If he ever had dinner with Al Capone and Al Capone didn't like him, he'd look at him and say, are you mocking me? And this guy would go, no, no, I promise I'm not. But if Alphonse didn't like you, you'd never see him again, darling. Your husband would never be home again. He'd right now be a part of a foundation of a very tall building. But Al Capone got indicted less than I did. Think of it, Alphonse Capone. My parents would look down, they were so great. They're saying, how did this ever happen to my son? But you know what? We're finding out, and everybody knew, and I've been saying it's a total fraud. It was election interference, that's all it was. All Biden, they're all Biden indictments, the local ones, the state ones. They're all Biden indictments. He's a bad guy. And he's unleashed a horrible thing on this country. He's really done, wouldn't you say, Byron? He has unleashed a horrible thing because, you know, that can happen the other way around, too. But the Supreme Court came out with an incredible decision this week, and it was, I have great respect for the courage that they've shown. Great respect for the courage that they've shown. They have great intellect and great insight, incredible insight. They got it. They saw what was happening, not only with me, but with other people, what they did with the Fisher verdict. You know the Fisher verdict, right? That has to do with the J6 people. They had great decisions this last week. Decisions on regulations that are going to free up businesses and allow businesses to hire people and thrive. All of their persecution is only happening because I am running for president and leading very big in every single poll. And we're not just leading against crooked Joe Biden, we're leading against Kamala, and we're leading against everybody else. And our senators and our congressmen are coming in with us. We're going to have a big, big day, most important day. The radical left Democrats have spent this entire election posing as defenders of democracy. You ever hear Biden? He's a threat to democracy. He doesn't even know what the hell the term is. Trump is a threat to democracy. This guy. Low IQ. He's a low IQ individual. But they're lying in the entire world of Joe Biden's condition. I mean, you see his condition. You see them frantically trying to overturn the results of 50 state primaries and install a new candidate at the behest of their very rich donors. Do you know that we took in record numbers over the last 4 weeks, and most of it was taken in with small donors, $61 on average, $61. And those people vote. But the Democrats, I think that their funding is stopping because I think they're rich donors. They have a lot of rich donors. We have some, but we don't really focus on it. We focus on the small donor. To me, one thing, every small donor votes. The rich donors there in Monte Carlo during the election. You know, how's the election going? Joe Biden is a threat to democracy. He is a major threat to democracy, and Democrats are the ones who really want to destroy democracy in our country. The radical left Democrats rigged the presidential election in 2020, and we're not going to allow them to rig the presidential election in 2024. And every time the radical left Democrats, Marxists, communists, and fascists indict me, I consider it a great badge of honor. I do. Because I'm being indicted for you. Never forget, our enemies want to take away my freedom because I will never let them take away your freedom. It's as simple as that. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun being indicted. Thank you. I didn't know. What does it mean to be indicted? Thank you. They want to silence me because I will never let them silence you. And in the end, they're not after me. They're after you. I just happen to be standing in their way, and I always will be standing in their way. We're not going to let happen to our country what's happened to so many countries that many of you people were very much involved in through your parents and grandparents. You know what happened to so many of those countries. We're thrilled to be joined tonight by many fantastic Florida patriots, including a man who's become really a friend of mine. We had a vicious campaign for a while, and he was tough and he was smart. And I got to really know him well over the years, and he's a fantastic guy, Senator Marco Rubio. Marco? Thank you, Marco. Thank you. And you have a great tandem because you have another great senator who was a great governor, fantastic governor, Senator Rick Scott. Thank you, Rick. Thank you. Thank you, Rick. We have a lot of congressmen. Let's introduce it. What the hell else do we have to do, right? Should we introduce? And by the way, at the end, do you want the music or do you want no music? Music, ready? Music or no music, ready? Who wants the music? Who wants a little bit quicker, no music? I think we have music tonight. Get the music ready. Get the music ready. We have some incredible, talented warriors, representatives. Corey Mills. Corey, thank you. Thank you, Corey. Great guy. Brian Mast. We love Brian. Thank you, Brian. Mike Waltz. Thank you, Mike. Doing great. A man I'm not going to get into a fight with him anytime soon. Byron Donalds, who's fantastic. His wife, by the way, is a true expert on education. I say, stay ready. Thank you, Donna. Thank you. Thank you, Donna, for being here. Appreciate it. Great, great person. Maria Salazar. Thank you, Maria. Great. Thank you very much. Carlos Jimenez. Carlos. Good man. Mario Diaz-Balart. Thank you. Thank you. Great job. You have a fantastic lieutenant governor that's here, Jeanette Nunes. Jeanette, thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you, Jeanette. Thank you. And Florida State Senators Debbie Mayfield. Thank you. Thank you, Debbie. Thank you very much. Ileana Garcia. Thank you. Ana Maria Rodriguez. Thank you. Great people. State Representatives Jessica Baker. Randy Fine. Where's Randy Fine? Good. Thanks, Randy. Kevin Steele. Paula Stark. Juan Carlos Porras. Alina Garcia. David Barrero. Fabian Pasebe. Fabian, thank you. Tom Fabricio. Thank you, Tom. Thanks, Tom. Vicky Lopez. A very good guy, fantastic person, great politician, frankly, but he loves the state. Incoming Speaker of the Florida House, Danny Perez. Thank you, Danny. Good job. Good luck, Danny. That should be an easy job. Good luck. And Alex Rizzo. Thank you, Alex, very much. A person who I know personally does a fantastic job as the mayor of Doral, Christy Fraga. Thank you, Kristen. Thank you, darling. Thank you. Great job. Appreciate it. Vice Mayor Oscar Pugue Carvey. Oscar, Vice Mayor. Thank you, Oscar. Councilwoman Digna Cabral. Thank you, Digna. Thank you very much. Sweetwater Mayor Jose Pepe Diaz. I've known him a long time. Pepe. Weston Mayor Margaret Brown. Thank you, Margaret. Well, we got a lot of politics. You have no idea. I'm introducing about 25%. We did it by the luck of the draw. Miami-Dade County Commissioners Kevin Cabrera and J.C. Bermudez. J.C., thank you. Great people, great politicians, but good politicians. The next Miami-Dade County Sheriff, Rosie Cordero Stutz. Thank you, Rosie. Good luck. She has my endorsement. Right. Thank you. Thank you. Ambassador Carlos Trujillo. Carlos Trujillo. Thank you, Carlos. Great job you're doing. A friend of all of ours, and this woman is amazing. Laura Loomer. Where is she? Where's Laura? She is amazing. Felix Lasarte. Felix. Where is Felix? My lawyer. He's my lawyer. How am I doing? Am I getting the damn zoning done, Felix? He's doing a great job. And my sons, and we have one of my sons, this is the first time he's ever done it. First of all, one you know, and he's an incredible guy. He's very tough. He's very, very strong, great speaker, great talent. Donald Trump Jr. And another son who's here tonight. I love when my sons and family come, you know, it's really nice. Somebody who's fantastic, works so hard, so smart, has a great wife, as does Don. Oh, you like Laura, right? Let's get off Eric and let's talk about Laura. Laura's only the head of the Republican Party. She's upwardly mobile. She's upwardly mobile. But a man who's done an incredible job at the company, and I think there has never been a human being that's had more subpoenas. Every day, Congress would serve a subpoena on him, and he has done some job, I'll tell you. Eric Trump. Thank you. Great job. And a very young man. This is a young man. He just turned 18. Oh, look at this. A very young man who's now going to college, got into every college he wanted to, and he made his choice. And he's a very good guy, I'll tell you. You know, I'm not allowed to call them boy, but he is my boy. He's my boy. They're all my boys, right? When you have sons, they can be any age. They're your boy, and they're always going to be. And he is a very special guy. Barron Trump. This is the first time he's ever done this. Barron. Where is Barron? Stand up. Look at him. That's the first time he's done it. That's the first time, right? Hey, you're pretty popular. He might be more popular than Don and Eric. We got to talk about this. Hey, Don, we got to talk about this, huh? All right. So, Barron, it's good to have you. Welcome to the scene, Barron. I don't know. He had such a nice, easy life. Now it's a little bit changed. Anyway, a special guy, right? Also, some grandchildren who are very talented. Two of them are great golfers, really great golfers. You all know about Kai. Where's Kai? Kai. And a real little killer. She hits a long ball for her size. She can barely lift the club until she swings. Her swing is perfect. Chloe. And Don Jr. is here somewhere, I think. Vanessa is here. Oh, there he is. Good. Hi, Don. What a good group. Vanessa Trump, stand up. Thanks. Thank you, Don Jr. That's good. Don the Third, and also a real friend of the family. She's been friendly. You know, she started off on The Five years ago, and she made that show very successful. She was the star of that show, actually. And she was always good to me a long time, long before I knew her in this capacity. And she was really a big star on television, very, very big. The Five, when it was just in its infancy and it was hot as it could be. Kimberly Guilfoyle. Thank you, Kimberly. And she hasn't stopped. So thank you all for being here. And I know I didn't introduce many congressmen and lots of others, but I think we have to get back to the business at hand. Is it too hot for anybody? No, not bad. Once you get used to the fact that you're soaking wet, from the moment we take back the White House from crooked Joe Biden, I believe we are going to have the 4 greatest years in the history of our country. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, shortly after we, all of us together, win the presidency, I will have the horrible war between Russia and Ukraine settled, and I will prevent our nation, and we will prevent the whole world from entering World War III, because that's where we are. We're very close to World War III, and Biden doesn't have a clue. We should have never allowed, if you think about it, Russia, Ukraine would have never happened. October 7th, the attack on Israel would have never happened. Inflation would have never happened. Think of our country if the election wasn't rigged. Think of it. Think where we'd be if they didn't rig that election. So we're not going to let it happen again, because our country won't exist. It would be I believe it would be the last election we've ever had if anything happened. I really believe it. We're not going to let that happen. You got to get out and vote. If I was president, though, and think of it, Afghanistan, one of the most embarrassing moments in the history of our country, would also never have happened. It would have never happened. You know, Ukraine, when you think Ukraine, I had a very good relationship with Putin. We talk about it. It was the apple of his eye. Would have never happened. I told him, can't do it. You're not going to do it. October 7th, the attack on Israel, I knew it so well. They had no money because the purveyor of funds was Iran, and Iran was broke. They had all sorts of sanctions. Nobody could buy. China couldn't buy. China was a massive buyer of oil from Iran. I said, if you buy from Iran, you can't do business in the United States. And they did very well in the United States. And they didn't buy nobody, but Iran was broke. They had no money for Hezbollah. They had no money for Hamas. And we had no terror. You know, I always wanted to talk about it when I was president. I was 3 years in, 3.5 years in. I said, I want to just brag a little bit. I want to say that we had no terror. There was no terror attacks in 4 years, but I wanted to brag about it. But I wanted to wait till I got out, and now I brag about it all the time. We had very few terrorists allowed into our country. We had a year 20 where the charts come out, how many terrorists enter the country. Now, I think they're wrong because I can't believe it, but they actually had no terrorists. 0 terrorists came in 2019. That was a Trump year. Now we have thousands and thousands of terrorists pouring into our country from all over the world, and they're the worst terrorists in the world. They're the biggest and the worst, and we got them living in our country. They actually put down 2019, Trump, no terrorists, 0. I don't believe that, but that's what they have, and that was done by Border Patrol and others, State Department. I'll take it. I don't believe it, but it was very close to nothing, and they actually have 0 terrorists came into our country. We were tough on it, and we would not have Russian warships and nuclear submarines surrounding Cuba 60 miles off our coast. You know that, right? For all of you people in Cuba, congratulations. You're now being protected by Russia. Congratulations. Can you imagine that the press, the fake news, those people, they don't even talk about it. We have nuclear submarines and 5 warships in Cuba, and they don't even talk about it. If that happened to me as president, it would be the biggest story every single day. But they don't talk about it because they're fake and corrupt news. When I was in the White House, I canceled Barack Hussein Obama's deal with the Cuban dictatorship and reimposed tough sanctions on that regime. They were ready to break. They were all set, and then we had the election taken away, robbed, rigged. Joe Biden has gone weak and soft on Cuban communists, as you know better than anybody, so many of you here. And he's abandoned the brave Cuban dissidents while the Cuban people are suffering, starving, and dying in Cuba. Would have been all solved very quickly. As president, I will again stand with the people of Cuba in their long quest for justice, liberty, and freedom. In my next term, we will build a great iron dome over our country, a dome like has never been seen before, a state-of-the-art missile defense shield that will be entirely made in the USA, right here in your state, right here in Florida. We'll build a big section. You have a lot of defense. We moved a lot of companies into Florida for defense purposes. I will not cut 1 penny from Social Security or Medicare, and I will not raise the retirement age by 1 day. Biden is going to do that because he's allowing these people that come in to go on to Social Security and Medicare, to go into the hospitals. And, you know, we want to be nice, but no country can sustain this. No country can sustain it. I kept that promise for 4 straight years, and I will keep it again. We have plenty of other resources. We're not going to touch Social Security or Medicare. If the millions of Biden migrants became citizens, Medicare and Social Security will be gone. They'll be gone. They'll be gone. We're going to rebuild our cities into beacons of hope, safety, and beauty better than they have ever, ever, ever been before. We will take over the horribly run capital of our nation in Washington, D.C., and clean it up, renovate it, and rebuild our capital city so that it's no longer a nightmare of murder and crime, but rather it will become the most beautiful capital anywhere in the world. Right now, if you leave Florida, oh, let's go, darling. Let's look at the Jefferson Memorial. Let's look at the Washington Monument. Let's go and look at some of the beautiful scenes, and you end up getting shot, mugged, raped. We're going to take over our capital, and we're going to run it tough and smart, and we're going to beautify it. We're going to get all the graffiti off the marble. We're going to fix the roads and the medians, which are falling down all over the streets. We're going to make our capital beautiful again. We're going to do the same thing with our cities, even though Democrat run. We're going to work with Democrat governors and mayors if we have to. On day one, I will sign a new executive order to cut federal funding for any school pushing critical race theory, transgender insanity, and other inappropriate racial, sexual, or political content onto the lives of our children. And I will not give 1 penny to any school that has a vaccine mandate or a mask mandate. And I will keep men out of women's sports. Can you imagine? Can you imagine even having to say that? I will fully uphold the Second Amendment. We will protect innocent life, and we will restore free speech in our country. And I will secure our elections once and for all. Our goal will be one-day voting with paper ballots, proof of citizenship, and voter ID. Very simple. But until then, Republicans must win. You must get out and vote. We want a landslide, and let's call it this: too big to rig. Too big to rig. Thank you. Look at all the front row Joes. Oh, wow. Wow, they've been to like 200 rallies. Thank you very much. It's a great honor to have you. Great. It's a great honor. These are real patriots. They make a lot of money, I guess, because they're at every rally. I go to California, I have a rally, I have the front row Joes there. If you took the 10 worst presidents in the history of the United States and added them up, they would not have done near the destruction to our country as Joe Biden and the Biden administration has done. Think of it. I used to say 5, remember? 6 months ago, I'd say 5 worse. I added 10. I could go higher than that. There's nobody that's done destruction to our country. And now we find out he probably doesn't even know he did it, okay? Joe, why did you do it? I did what did I do? So if you want to save America, get your friends, get your family, get everyone you know, and vote. You got to vote early, vote absentee, vote on election day, vote anytime you want, but vote and follow your vote. Make sure that it gets counted. You can do that. Follow that vote, because these people cheat like nobody's ever cheated before. Frankly, they're no good at policy, but they're good at cheating. And if you want to help us ensure election integrity, sign up at protectthevote.com. So in conclusion, from Jacksonville to Miami, from Tampa to Tallahassee, from the beautiful place that I know very well, destined to right here in Doral, we inherit the legacy of generations of American patriots who gave their blood, sweat, and tears to defend our country and our freedom. We stand on the shoulders of American heroes who crossed the ocean, settled the continent, tamed the wilderness, laid down the railroads, raised up those great, beautiful skyscrapers, won 2 world wars, and from right here in this beautiful state, launched our brave American astronauts to plant the stars and stripes on the face of the moon. Together, they made America into the single greatest nation in the history of the world. But now we are a nation in decline. We are a failing nation. We are a nation that has the highest inflation in 50 years, where banks are collapsing and interest rates are skyrocketing. Likewise, we are a nation where energy costs have reached the highest levels in our history. We are no longer energy independent or energy dominant, as we were just a few short years ago. We are a nation that is begging Venezuela and others for oil. Please, please, please help us, Joe Biden says. And yet we have more liquid gold under our feet than any other country anywhere in the world. We are a nation that just recently heard that Saudi Arabia and Russia will be reducing their oil production while at the same time substantially increasing the price. And we met that threat by announcing that we will no longer be drilling for oil in large areas of Alaska and elsewhere in our precious land. We are a nation that is considered and consumed by the radical left's Green New Deal, yet everyone knows that the Green New scam is fake and will lead only to our destruction. We are a nation whose leaders are demanding all electric cars, despite the fact that they don't go far, cost too much, and whose batteries are produced in China with materials only available in China, when an unlimited amount of gasoline is available inexpensively in the United States, but not available in China. And now we are a nation that wants to make our revered and very powerful army tanks, the best in the world, all electric, so that despite the fact that they are also not able to go far, fewer pollutants will be released into the air as we blast our way through enemy territory in an environmentally friendly way. And they also want to make our great jet fighters with a green stamp of energy savings, though losing 15% efficiency, but allowing us to keep our enemy's atmosphere clean of emissions as we viciously and unceremoniously attack them at levels never seen before. Who are these people? Who are these fools that would do this to us? Who are these people who would ruin our country? We are a nation that ended oil exploration and production in the United States, just as the price of oil reached an all-time high. What other country would do such a stupid thing, a foolish thing, and self-destruct itself just like we've done for 4 years? Can we be energy independent and even energy dominant again? Yes, oh yes, and quickly, says President Trump. Yes, oh yes, and we will do it quickly. We are a nation that surrendered in Afghanistan, leaving dead soldiers, American citizens, and $85 billion worth of the finest military equipment anywhere in the world. We left it behind. And also abandoning Bagram, one of the biggest military bases anywhere in the world, and only 1 hour away from where China makes its nuclear weapons. And we are a nation that allowed Russia, Ukraine to fight, killing hundreds of thousands of people, and it will only get worse. It would never have happened with me as your president, and for 4 straight years, it didn't happen. Likewise, the horrifying attack on Israel would have never happened. They wouldn't even have thought of doing such a thing if President Trump was in the Oval Office. Iran was broke under the Trump administration. They didn't have the money to fund Hamas, Hezbollah, and all of the other instruments of terror that they use. But those sanctions were lifted by a corrupt Biden administration. And now Iran is a rich country with $250 billion. Think of that. Iran now has, from nothing, they were broke. They now have $250 billion. $6 billion they also got for hostages, $6 billion. And for electricity to Iraq, they were given $10 billion, all compliments of an incompetent Biden administration. And China with Taiwan is next. We are a nation that allows radical left terrorists to violently attack our cities, leaving behind massive destruction and death, and nothing happens to the criminals that do these terrible things. There is no punishment. But when people who love our country protest on January 6th in Washington, they become hostages, unfairly imprisoned for long periods of time. But fortunately, the Supreme Court has just ruled, and they should be out soon. We are a third world nation that has weaponized its law enforcement against the opposing political party like never seen before in our country. We've got a Federal Bureau of Investigation that won't allow bad election-changing facts to be presented to the public, and which offers $1 million to a writer of fiction about Donald Trump to lie and to say it was fact. Where Hunter Biden's laptop from hell was Russian disinformation, and the FBI knew it wasn't. But 51 intelligence agents said it was, and a Department of Justice that refuses to investigate egregious acts of voting irregularities and fraud. And we have a man who is totally corrupt, totally incompetent, and the worst president in the history of our country, who is cognitively impaired and is a president who is not legally allowed to stand trial because he is mentally incompetent, but he is allowed to become the president of the United States again. And he is in no condition to lead and is now in charge of dealing with Russia and China and all of these countries on possible nuclear war. He has no clue what he's doing or where he is. And next will be World War III, because he doesn't know what he's doing. And this will be a war more devastating than any of the other wars. It will be a war like no other because of the weaponry that no one wants to even think about or ever talk about. We are a nation that no longer has a free and fair press. Fake news is all you get, and they are indeed the enemy of the people. They refuse to discuss the Biden crime family, but enjoy covering the false indictments of Donald J. Trump, who has done nothing wrong except win an election against crooked Hillary Clinton. We are a nation where free speech is no longer allowed and where crime is rampant and out of control like never before. We are a nation that is allowing Iran to build a massive nuclear weapon and China to use the trillions and trillions of dollars it has taken from us to build a military to rival our own. And less than 4 years ago, we had Iran, China, Russia, North Korea, all in check. They respected us. They were afraid of us. They weren't going to do a thing against us, and everyone knows it. Now Russia and China are holding summits to carve up the rest of the world. And perhaps most importantly, we are a nation that is no longer admired, respected, or listened to on the world stage. They just aren't. We are a nation, in fact, that in many ways has become a joke. And we are a nation that is hostile to liberty, freedom, faith, and even to God. We are a nation whose economy is collapsing into a cesspool of ruin, and whose supply chain is broken, whose stores are not stocked, whose deliveries are not coming, and whose educational system is ranked at the very bottom of every single list. We are a nation that just sold a once great company, United States Steel, to Japan. We are a nation whose stock market's continued success is continued and contingent on MAGA winning the next election. If MAGA doesn't win the next election, you will have a 1929 type depression. We are a nation where large packs of sadistic criminals and thieves are allowed to go into stores and openly rob them, beat up and kill their workers and customers, and leave with armloads of goods, but with no retribution, where the authority of our great police has been taken, where their families and pensions have been threatened, and their lives would be destroyed for the mere mention of the words law enforcement. We are a nation where fentanyl and all other forms of illegal drugs are easier to get than groceries to feed our beautiful families and babies. We have become a drug-infested, crime-ridden nation which is incapable of solving even the simplest of problems. We will institute the powerful death penalty for drug dealers, where each dealer is responsible for the death during their lives of 500 people or more. Mothers will never again be forced to watch their children overdosing and hospitally. And we will never allow mothers to watch their child hopelessly dying in their arms, screaming, "What can I do? What can I do? Help me, God, what can I do?" We are a nation whose once revered airports are a dirty, crowded mess. You sit and wait for hours and then are notified that the plane won't leave, that they have no idea when they will, where ticket prices have tripled. They don't have the pilots to fly the planes. They don't see qualified air traffic controllers, and they just don't know what the hell they're doing. We are a nation that screens its citizens viciously at all ports, but if you are an illegal alien, you are allowed to flow through by the millions and millions right over our southern border. We are a nation that has lost its confidence, lost its willpower, and lost its strength. We are a nation that has lost its way. But we are not going to allow this horror to continue. Less than 4 years ago, we were a great nation, and we will soon be a great nation again. With the right leadership, every disaster Joe Biden has created can be fixed, and quickly. Every problem can be solved, and every wrong can be rectified, and it will be rectified very quickly. By this time next year, America's borders will be strong, sealed, and secure. Inflation will be in full retreat. Our economy will be at a level that will equal and even surpass what it was 4 years ago. Optimism will be surging. The American dream will be thriving again for citizens of every race, religion, color, and creed. Law and justice will reign all throughout our land. Freedom will be restored. The flame of liberty will be burning bright. Joe Biden, the worst president in the history of our country, will be a fading memory of the past, and our great silent majority, including the once forgotten men and women of our country, will be the one shaping America's magnificent future when I am the 47th President of the United States. Because we are all Americans, and together we will show November 5th to be the most important day in the history of America. We are one movement, one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. We will make America free again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, Florida. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miami. God bless everyone. God bless you all. Thank you.